Which team is the best Premier League team of all time? Now, this is something that we could debate for hours. Do we go with Manchester City and when they finished on 100 points? Maybe Liverpool in the season just passed? Perhaps Manchester United with that 99 treble, or even Chelsea back in 2004-2005. However, one team that always remains at the forefront of this debate is Arsenal in 2003-2004 when they were crowned the Invincibles. So today, with this in mind, I'm going to take a look at arguably one of the greatest teams to have ever played the beautiful game. This is Arsenal, this is the Invincibles, this is GOATS. Before Arsene Wenger arrived at Arsenal back in 1996, the club did have some success, but they also had their fair share of run-ins with the FA, a few players that liked a pint or two, and a squad that craved chocolate bars. But this was the culture of football back in those days, and Wenger certainly turned things on their head. He brought in stricter training methods. Now, Wenger loves a little bit of science, and he basically redesigned their entire training centre. Next up was nutrition. He ditched the burger and chips and brought in the Evian broccoli diet, which many players said had a major impact. One massive thing that Wenger changed was the playing style. In the 1990s, Arsenal under George Graham, they had got a little bit boring, maybe a little bit too defensive, and Wenger completely switched things up. He brought in fast-paced attacking football and brought back some entertainment to Arsenal. Back in the 1990s, I think it's safe to say Manchester United pretty much ran the show. However, as we went into the noughties, each season it was pretty much an Arsenal versus Manchester United battle each season. At the end of the 2001-2002 season, it was Arsenal that lifted the trophy, and Arsenal managed to go the entire season without losing a game away. This then spurred Wenger on for bigger and greater things, and the next season they had a really good start, and he started to think that maybe his club could go the entire season unbeaten. Everyone kind of laughed at it a little bit, and of course they didn't win that season. It was Manchester United that lifted the trophy, but little did we know, Arsene Wenger's prophecy was about to come true. First up, let's take a look at the team. Now, the team was pretty similar to the season prior. They had a very quiet transfer window, especially with the financial constraints of a new stadium being built. The main addition was goalkeeper Jens Lehmann. He came in for £1.5 million and replaced David Seaman, who went off to Manchester City. They also managed to retain their big name players and also negotiated contracts for Patrick Vieira and Robert Pires. Several young players were also brought in from academies abroad, including Gael Clichy, who came from Cannes, and in January 2004 they brought in Jose Antonio Reyes from Sevilla. They also managed to sign a certain Robin van Persie, but he comes into play in Arsenal's history a little bit later on. The starting 11 was usually Lehmann. He was more of a commanding goalkeeper that was ready to sweep up any balls. A back four of Laurent, Kolo Touré, Sol Campbell and Ashley Cole. This four were the only part of the team that really kept their shape throughout a game. They were normally winning the ball back in one-on-ones or forcing the opposition to play long, engaging them in their well-drilled offside trap. All four were pretty speedy. Campbell would normally drop back, and it would be Kolo Touré, a converted defensive midfielder, who would go up the pitch ever so slightly, and you would then have Laurent and Ashley Cole ready to push up to create a little bit of width in the side. Their four in midfield consisted of Freddie Ljungberg, Gilberto Silva, Patrick Vieira and Robert Pires. When it came to defending, Silva and Vieira would drop back a little bit. Silva would always be a little bit deeper, he would act as a pivot, and Vieira would be ready and waiting to cross the ball out wide if needed. Meanwhile, the wide midfielders would move further up the pitch, and this would create a change in shape in the formation. And finally, of course, a front two of Thierry Henry and Dennis Bergkamp. Now, when this team didn't have the ball, they would always be pressing, and what you would see is Bergkamp kind of dropping in between the lines and Thierry Henry kind of out to the left. This would mean that whenever the counter-attack would inevitably happen, they were ready and waiting. Henry was undoubtedly the spearhead of the attack and provided some amazing goals in this season. This team had a clear identity that encapsulated pace, being able to make key passes, pure excellence in every single position on the pitch, and of course fluidity and great movement. Now, the stability of this team of course meant that Arsenal were front runners for the title alongside Manchester United and Chelsea, who had just been taken over by billionaire Roman Abramovich. The potential title race was looking pretty good. Now, let's take a look at how this amazing season unfolded. Arsenal got off to an amazing start, and after just 4 games, they were already sitting top of the table, 3 points ahead of their rivals Manchester United, who had already lost to Southampton. Now, towards the end of September, of course, Arsenal were still at the top, and they travelled to play third-place rivals Manchester United, and what a game it was. In the 80th minute, Vieira was sent off for a second bookable offence after he attempted to kick out at striker Ruud van Nistelrooy, which was seen by referee Steve Bennett. At 0-0, United were rewarded a penalty in the 90th minute. Van Nistelrooy took it hit the bar and bounced back into play, and I think football fans know what happened after this, as an altercation erupted and it resulted in 6 Arsenal players being charged with improper conduct. The club were also fined £175,000, which was the most that a club had been fined at the time. Towards the end of the year, suspensions came into action. There were a couple of injuries as well, including Vieira, who at this point was in and out of the team for about 2 months. Wenger had to reshuffle, and in November gave Clichy his debut. However, points were still dropped, memorably on that first weekend in December when they drew with Leicester City. And also, to make matters worse, Ashley Cole ended up getting sent off after a 2-foot tackle on Ben Thatcher. Meanwhile, Chelsea, they were experiencing quite a decent run, including a 1-0 win over Manchester United. The following week, however, there was a win against Blackburn Rovers. Chelsea had lost the day before, meaning that Arsenal were back at the top with Manchester United just behind them in second place. However, unfortunately, at the end of the calendar year, due to even more draws and points dropped, they finished second in the league to Manchester United with 49 points from 19 games. However, were Arsenal going to take this? Absolutely not. And at the turn of the year, they bounced back with 9 wins in a race to consolidate first position. And towards the end of February, their lead was increased by 9 points, as Chelsea and Manchester United had some unfortunate draws and losses. And of course, due to a failed drugs test, Manchester United were without their centre-back Rio Ferdinand. Arsenal carried on their great form into March, but towards the end of the month, they faced a real stern challenge from Manchester United, and this was the first time that the two teams were meeting up since their altercation the year prior. Henry gave Arsenal the lead with a long-range shot that swerved past goalkeeper Roy Carroll. However, with 5 minutes of the game left, Louis Saha evaded the Arsenal defence and scored the equaliser for United. Arsenal did come close to an injury time winner from Lorraine, but he was denied by United's goalkeeper. So Alex Ferguson actually came out after the game, obviously pretty irritated, and did predict that Wenger and his side would be winning the league. In avoiding defeat, Arsenal set a new record of 30 games unbeaten since the start of the season. This was previously held by Liverpool and Leeds. They remained in first position until the end of March, 7 points clear of their rivals with 8 games remaining. Now, in the first week of April, Arsenal were knocked out of the FA Cup and the Champions League, but who cares about those? It's all about the Premier League, and they moved within 2 wins of regaining the title. With Chelsea unable to get maximum points in their games, Arsenal knew that when they went to play rivals Tottenham, all they would need is a draw to be crowned champions once again. Arsenal took the lead within the first 3 minutes, and 10 minutes before half-time, Bergkamp passed the ball to Vieira, who passed it back for Pires to side foot into the back of the net. Now, Spurs did reply in the second half with 2 goals, the equaliser being a penalty. However, that did not stop that Arsenal team from celebrating when that final whistle blew. This marked the second time the club had been crowned league champions at their rivals' ground, the first time back in 1971. Wenger praised his team for their success, telling the BBC, "We've been remarkably consistent, haven't lost a game, and we have played stylish football. We have entertained people who just love football." Arsenal's final game of the season, that was against Leicester City. Now, although they did concede, it was Vieira and Henry that came to the rescue with some goals, and they finished the season with a win. With 26 wins, 12 draws and 0 defeats, Arsenal became the first team since Preston North End in the 1888-89 season to go the entire league unbeaten. In recognition of the team's achievement, Wenger was awarded the Barclaycard Manager of the Year. Henry was given the accolades of PFA Players Player of the Year by his fellow peers and the FWA Footballer of the Year by football writers for the second consecutive season. Henry also came runner-up in both the 2003 FIFA World Player of the Year award and the 2003 Ballon d'Or. A day after the Leicester City game, Arsenal paraded around London on an open-top bus with the Premier League trophy to 250,000 fans. The Premier League then commissioned a gold replica of the trophy, which was awarded to them before the start of the next season. Now, that was the last time that Arsenal won the Premier League. However, they carried on that unbeaten run to 49 games until October 2004, when of course it was Manchester United who brought it to an end. That season, of course, Chelsea lifted the title, and with Arsenal's move to the Emirates Stadium in 2006, it signified a real transitional period for the club. Several experienced players were displaced for younger players, and their playing style shifted more towards ball retention. As the years went by, the team unfortunately began to fall apart. First up, with the likes of Patrick Vieira moving to Juventus and the arrivals of Nicolas Bentner, Emmanuel Adebayor and Theo Walcott. Meanwhile, Dennis Bergkamp retired in 2006, Robert Pires transferred to Villarreal, Sol Campbell to Portsmouth, Ashley Cole to London rivals Chelsea, and finally, with the likes of Robin van Persie just about beating Thierry Henry to the top goal scorer for the club, he decided to finally leave the club and make a move to Barcelona. However, in 2004, he did return to the club just for 4 games on a loan. As for Wenger, well, he was at the club until May 2018 when he retired. During all of those years, he managed to keep his teams in the mix for Premier League titles, League Cups, and of course the Champions League. What this club achieved was absolutely phenomenal in that season. It started out as just an impossible dream, but it was Wenger that made it happen. This squad has paved the way for some of the amazing teams that we see playing today. At the time when they were crowned Invincibles, they did say that it could be another 100 years before we see a team manage to achieve this again. But with some of the amazing football that we see being played today, surely it's only a matter of time before we see another Premier League team crowned Invincibles once more. That is it for this episode of GOATS, but do not worry, there is loads more to come. Why don't you guys let me know in the comment section below what team you would like to see us cover next, and of course, which Premier League team you think is the greatest of all time. Whilst you're there, do not forget to hit that like button, subscribe if you're not already subscribing, and check out all the other content that we have got going on here at OneFootball. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys soon.